What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It's your boy Trey Johnson back with another episode of the No Disrespect But podcast. Before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Always feel free to comment. Just keep those comments respectful. If you're interested in supporting your favorite podcaster, yours truly, the link to do so will be in the episode description. Now, for today's episode, if you didn't know, this week starts the NFL Combine. I know the offseason is moving. Shit, in about a month, we'll be ready for the NFL draft. So it's getting started, y'all. And we're about to have free agency soon. So things are clicking and things are moving. But, the NFL Combine is always a good time to get another look at some of the top prospects coming into the NFL. I'm always interested to look at some of the guys that maybe we haven't gotten a lot of information on from a film standpoint, and maybe some prospects we never heard of. I believe there were 321 invites um, for this. Now, some of the top guys: Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, they won't be participating. And just kind of a soft aside to the meat of what we're going to be talking about. I really wish there could be like alternates for the NFL draft combine, and in that athletes having to let the the committee and everything know weeks ahead of time, because there are a lot of guys that we would have loved to see um here at the combine that probably didn't get invitations because Caleb Williams got an invitation. But how many times does the consensus top overall pick perform in recent years at the NFL Combine? So I'd like to see some alternates, and I'd like to see that process move up a little bit in terms of the prospects informing the committee if they're going to be attending or not. So then we can go to those alternates and give those guys another opportunity to just showcase their skill sets in front of scouts and general managers and coaches and things of that nature. But exciting time in Indianapolis again. Hopefully next year I will be in attendance both as the podcast host of No Disrespect But podcast, but also as a chiropractic husband, because my wife, the doctor Mrs. She's a chiropractor, and that's one of her big dreams. And so you know when you're a husband, you're a dream maker, right? And so I hope to be making that thing happen next year. So hopefully, this time next year, you will be seeing me from somewhere in Indianapolis, talking about the 2025 recruits. But neither here nor there. Um, I just kind of wanted to talk. Now, kind of get into the meat of what today's episode is. And look, as I was thinking about what I wanted to do, obviously, I wanted to talk about my top five in each position group for that I'm looking forward to watching the NFL Combine. Some guys who are participating, actually, most of the folks on the list are going to be participating. And then there's going to be some guys that aren't participating, but they might be going through interviews, physicals, things of that nature. And so I'm interested to see how those go. And so we're going to unpack that. Now, originally, I wanted to go all position groups: offense, defense, and some specialists. Uh, I was doing my homework on this show, and writing down some notes about each prospect. Guys, all phases, that shit ain't happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to do offense today. So quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, running back, offensive line. And then looking to do, you'll know, trust me, you'll know if you follow me on Twitter at But Disrespect. But what you'll know is I'm thinking either Thursday or Friday. So we might do a special Thursday episode instead of a Friday episode, just so I can get the defensive folks and the specialists, which there's only one specialist I'm looking forward to watching anyway. And I'm pretty sure you guys can guess who that is. But, um, want to start with, like I said, offense. And I want to do top five in each position group. And so we're going to kind of go over that. We're going to talk about, some of these guys' skill sets, maybe some things that they aren't as good at, some of the things that I'm looking forward to in terms of what are they going to showcase at the combine, maybe some things that I probably haven't seen on game film. And look, I get it. Game film is going to measure up more than drills and shorts and no pads. But at the same time, these are prospects that quite honestly, the general public hasn't seen a lot of, including myself. And so, outside of the homework and the article reading I did, and some of the film that I watched, there's only so much you'll get from some of these guys. And so, watching the NFL Combine is a good opportunity to maybe to watch what you haven't been able to see from a film standpoint, and kind of seeing some of those natural gifts that those guys have. So, anyways, I'll start with the most important position in football, quarterback position. And so, a guy like Jayden Daniels, he's one of my guys that I'm interested in seeing. Now, reigning Heisman Trophy winner, he's not going to be performing in any drills, but he is present in Indianapolis, going through interviews and physicals and things like that. So, um, a big thing I'm looking forward to is who is he meeting with. I just saw a report that the Giants, the Commanders, I believe the Falcons, and the Saints are meeting with him, and the Patriots are meeting with him. So there's a level of interest there. Obviously, the Saints were really eye popping. I'm a Saints fan, so of course that stood out. Even the Giants and what's going on with Daniel Jones, so that was something that stood out. But when you look at Jayden Daniels on tape, um, the guy is a playmaker, and he's something at the quarterback position, especially in today's day and age, and what you want from your quarterback in terms of being able to be athletic, but also be able to get the ball to the athletes on your team. He's a guy that I say he has a feel on when to go and when to throw. Sometimes you see with quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks, they're a little hesitant. They'll either hold on to the ball too long and not take advantage of the green grass in front of them, or they won't hold on to the ball long enough to make the big play. And instead, at the first sign of pressure, or if their first read isn't there, they go. And so, and that may result in sacks. Jayden Daniels, when blitz, has a high blitz to sack rate. So we saw there were times that maybe he did hold on to the ball a little bit too long and didn't run and get in a little pressure. But also at the same time, I just feel like more times than not on film, he just had that wherewithal of it's not there, I gotta go, or it's there. I got time. And he makes that play. And so that's something you want in a guy. I mean, he's a fifth year senior, so you expect some of those things to develop into his game. Definitely improved from his first year at LSU to his second, and by far improved from his time in Arizona State, where he was a guy who was great accuracy wise and always had a high completion percentage, but was always known for making the safe play and not making the play that wins games. And I think you saw last year he made enough big plays to win games. He just didn't have a defense that could stop, you know, running water or anything. Like they just couldn't stop a cold, a nosebleed, anything. So, but you saw from him that maturity and again that knowledge of knowing how the play needed to be made and how to move those chains. What now I will say there were times, and there's a moment that I'm remembering against the game versus Alabama where they ran a really nice wheel route to their running back, and he kind of missed it. The guy was open. I think if he puts it on him, he walks into the end zone. And so, like many quarterbacks, sometimes he's prone to missing the layups, so to speak, in certain throws and in certain respects. And I ideally, if he would have performed in the combine, and what I'm hoping to see during his pro day is more throws towards the middle of the field. Now, granted, he's going to be throwing against air, he's not going to be throwing against the defense, but that's something that last year, most notably, you didn't see a whole lot of. You didn't see a whole lot of plays designed for him to throw to the middle of the field. In fact, he had 0 big plays across the middle of the field. And in the NFL, that's where you got to make your bread and butter. They're kind of taking away the outside. And so you have to be able to throw in between those lines. So that's not something that I'm going to say that he can't do. It's just that we haven't seen it. And, him not passing in the combine, takes a chance away from us, right? But at the same time, he has a chance at his pro day, and hopefully when he does, wherever he gets drafted, he gets to build upon that because I think he can do it. He just hasn't done it, and maybe it's because the opportunity hasn't necessarily presented itself. But again, my big interest with Jaden, because he's not going to be doing any drills at the combine, would have loved to see the 40 time. Um, but I'm just interested to see who he's interviewing with and how those interviews go. So we already got like a list of some teams. Now I want to know, how do those interviews go, and what are some of the scouts and GMs and coaches saying about their opinions of him, right? So another guy who's high on my list, and you guys know, Michael Penix Jr., quarterback out of University of Washington. For me, he has the best pure arm talent in this draft. Just in terms of being able to um, make every throw. The deep ball accuracy is second to none. Now, one thing that going into the season and throughout the season that I always wanted, said I would be looking for, and he proved it, or he showed me flashes in it, was his short and intermediate game. Because sometimes we can get into these explosive offenses where you're throwing the ball downfield, and it's like, hey, can you make that throw? Can you make that in? Can you make that over? Can you make that short out? So those are some of the throws that I was looking for and seeing, okay, are you willing to maybe even check it down to your running back when the big play isn't there? And he kind of showed the ability to be a quick processor and to get the ball where it needs to go. He had one of the lowest pressure rates, which basically means he knew how to get rid of the ball and knew how to get the ball to where it needed to be, and he didn't hold on to it super long. I know a lot of people talked about him being a statue in the pocket, and if you actually watch the guy, he's not really a statue. He has great, good at worst, pocket mobility in terms of being able to move and navigate the pocket, but he'll take the yards, even if it's 3 or 4 yards. Like he's no Lamar Jackson, or he's no Jaden Daniels. He's not going to take off and get you 40 to 50 yards in a clip, but he'll get you 6 or 7, or he'll move the chains with his feet if they need to. And in the red zone, we saw that Washington utilized him as a runner. He's a big guy, big frame. So they utilized him on some quarterback powers and some quarterback sweeps in some short yardage situations. And so that just kind of shows that he's not immune to being able to utilize his legs and his physicality as a runner at times. Now, I will say, and someone pointed out, they talk about him against pressure now. Yes, most quarterbacks in college, especially, will struggle when there's pressure right in their face. But looking at the numbers when he was blitzed, having 13 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, having a 65% completion percentage, he knew where to get the ball to. And that's what I mean in terms of being a quick processor, a very smart and intelligent quarterback. And so that's something that I like going into the next level. Now, there are times where I think he's so focused on getting the ball out that his footwork can get real sloppy. We saw in that national title game, he was missing, Michigan got a beat on him, kind of rushed his internal clock, and he was missing routine throws. And he looked like a totally different quarterback than the guy that was tearing Texas apart. It had tore so many other defenses this season apart. So if he gets hit a little bit, he can get a little antsy. The the mechanics of what he's so good at, he starts to lose those at times, and they can lead to mistakes and missed throws. And so I wanted to see, him kind of make some throws like that in the combine. I want to see him kind of make some throws on the move. We didn't really see a whole lot of movement outside the pocket and having to make throws. We saw, again, him navigating and being able to shift his body and throw it within the pocket, but we didn't really see many outside of the pocket throws. And so I want to see how he does there, and if that same accuracy is there with those throws. And obviously with Michael Penix Jr. and knowing his injury history, granted, hasn't been hurt the past 2 years, and I do want to point that out. Physicals will always be important because the one thing physicals show us is not just where you are now, but maybe even projecting where you might be. And so those physicals will be very important for Michael Penix Jr. Next guy up, Spencer Rattler, quarterback out of South Carolina, also started his collegiate career at the University of Oklahoma. For me, very accurate thrower of the ball, but can be prone to turnovers because it's just the decision making sometimes. It leaves you scratching your head like, God, why do you make that throw? But at the same time, he's really good. I mean, the guy just has natural arm talent, and sometimes he can rely on that to a fault. I think sometimes he knows I have a great arm, but your arm is only as good as your feet, and so his feet need to catch up to his elite arm talent. And I think once those two mirror each other, you're talking about a perennial Pro Bowler, maybe even an MVP in this league. But those things just have to catch up to him. And I think it hurts really, with his feet not being where his arm is. It can hurt in some of those anticipation throws where, you saw a lot of times in the past 2 years at South Carolina, definitely, where you don't have at Oklahoma, he had guys running open like crazy because of the way uh, Lincoln Riley designs that system. But now being the more pro style offense, and he playing with a lot of young guys. There wasn't always that level of separation, and sometimes we had to throw guys open, and so he wasn't his best there. And I think that just kind of goes with him being able to anticipate those throws and maybe even not having his feet mirror his arm talent. But I'm really looking to see pocket presence. I did think at times he would press, like he would look really good, but then things start not to look as good. Maybe they're getting some pressure on him. Maybe his wide receivers aren't getting as much separation as he would like. And so you saw that he would press, but hopefully in some of these drills, I want to see some of that pocket presence, and I want to see precision time. We talking about him not being an anticipatory thrower. Well, here's the time to show that. So I want to see when you're getting that ball out, and is that ball out at the top of the wide receiver's route? So when he gets to his break, the ball's on him. And so those are some of the things that I'm looking forward to from Spencer Rattler. I was telling somebody the other day, I think somebody gave him bad advice in having him come back to South Carolina, because I just think because of all the things that got killed in the portal, and I just think bad tape got put out there, and tape that doesn't quite show who he truly is as a prospect and as a thrower of the football. And I just felt like he was on a high note the year before, beating Clemson, beating North Carolina. I just kind of felt like that was the time, but that's neither here nor there. Um, he got his opportunity. He's going to be at the combine. There's some guys sitting out. So look, like I always say, take the opportunity to make your money. So Spencer, it's a time to make you some money, man. Um, and then my fourth quarterback I'm looking at is Sam Hartman out of Notre Dame, formerly of Wake Forest. I think we're starting to see kind of a trend in today's day and age that where you graduate isn't typically where you started, because Jaden started at Arizona State, Michael Penix Jr. started at Indiana, Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma, excuse me, Sam Hartman at Notre Dame. And then my last quarterback, shit, he didn't start where he ended up finishing, and we'll get to that in a second. But Sam Hartman is what I describe as a wide receiver's dream, because he's going to give you every opportunity to make a play on the ball. And, did he have the same numbers in success at Notre Dame that he had at Wake Forest? No, but also, if you watch the games at Wake Forest, I think he had more of a veteran wide receiver core. In Notre Dame, he inherited a very young wide receiver core. One of the reasons why they really went after Sam Hartman, because they valued his veteran leadership and just his ability to help wide receivers along. And I think he did a good job of that. I think he would say he could have had a better season, and had he had a better season, Notre Dame has a better season. And I think a big part of that, and this actually stems from his days at Wake Forest too, was sometimes he didn't really show up in the big games. And so that's always something that's alarming to me, because I'm not saying you have to win every big game, because when you're at Wake Forest and Notre Dame, depending on who you're playing, you're probably not winning the talent differential there from a collective standpoint. So I understand you may not win every game or win every one of these big games, but I do want to see you play well. And so I think there were some games where he didn't showcase what I wanted to see from a fifth-year senior, right? I told you guys last episode, I'm the hardest on them. And so I need to see another step ahead. And I just didn't see that. but I just know his abilities and his traits, they can really translate. Now I will say he's not the most athletic. He will use his legs. I think kind of when he came back from kind of that freak injury at Wake Forest, he kind of stopped utilizing his legs as much. And so I would love to see him get back to that, just in terms of being able to extend plays and get the ball to his athletes. And he can't hold on to the ball just a tad bit too long, which you don't want to see. You want to, hey, either get rid of it or go. You talked about that with Jaden Daniels, having that knowledge of knowing when to go and when to throw. You kind of want Sam Hartman to utilize that a little bit more. I'm really interested in two things. Want to know his measurables. Right now, listed at 6'1", but I think he's more of like a 5'10", to be quite honest with you. And then want to see his throw power. That's not his strong point, but or hasn't been historically. But I want to see, has he added that? What type of work has he put in the offseason getting ready for the combine? I want to see him make some of those big throws at the combine. And show people that he does have a NFL arm. So really excited to see what Sam Hartman does this week. And Austin Reed is my last quarterback. Austin Reed is the quarterback of Western Kentucky University. Actually started his collegiate career at the University of North Florida and transferred to Western Kentucky after North Florida disbanded their football program, I think, during COVID. So uh, this is a guy that I can only say he can sling the rock. He can throw it all over the field. Has that prototypical frame you look for in a quarterback. He's kind of that big body, strong arm. Not much of a runner per se, but can move and and utilize his legs to a degree. And I spoke to Sam holding on to the ball a little bit longer. I will tell you with Austin Reed, he doesn't take sacks. The kid was only sacked 7 times all season. Now, granted, yes, you could say, hey, that's his offensive line. They're doing great. But also at the same time, that lets me know that's a guy that knows how to get rid of the ball, whether that's to his teammates or whether that's throwing it away and living to see another down, which sometimes young quarterbacks, which again, he's a fifth-year senior as well. So some of that veteran leadership, a guy that has a little bit more wherewithal of how to do things and how to navigate the game and live to see another play. And so to only be sacked 7 times, yes, we want to give credit to the offensive line, but I also think we want to give credit to the quarterback because it shows that he knows what to do when he's back there, and he won't put you in negative situations. Um, like I said, he's not what you would consider extremely mobile. So I would like to see him, in terms of the drills, have more throws on the move. And I also want to see a little bit more of that footwork. Again, sometimes when you have these big body quarterbacks with these strong arms, they can get a little lackadaisical with the footwork. So I want to see some improvements there. And like I said, the guy produces. So is he probably going to be a day one star or something like that? No. But if you're kind of looking at a guy that can come in, compete, for that QB3, QB2 spot. He's a guy. He's produced. At the end of the day, production matters. I don't care at what level you're playing. Production matters. The guy's had 70 touchdowns in the past 2 years, over 100 if you include his year at North Florida. So that rounds up my quarterbacks. But again, just kind of redo it. Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr., Spencer Rattler, Sam Hartman, and last but not least, Austin Reed. I know that's somebody that a lot of you guys probably haven't seen play. And unfortunately, he didn't play in the bowl game, which would have been great because that's a time where it's on national TV and everybody can see him, right? But he didn't play in the bowl game, but would have loved to see that so people can really see, some of his film and things like that on the national stage. Now, going to running backs, I will start with Braylon Allen, running back out of Wisconsin. I think the kid's still only 19 years old or something like that. It's crazy. He went to college super young, but was a fan of this guy from his first snap as a Wisconsin Badger. He has it. He has it. What you're looking for in a running back in terms of elite level vision, and we know what type of running backs that Wisconsin has a rich history of the running backs that they put out there, and Braylon is just that next generation of it. And so, like I said, elite vision for a running back, offensive lineman's dream. The guy can find a hole anywhere. Um, and surprisingly, he has very little wear and tear, especially coming from last season where he shared some carries and still was extremely productive. Was under 1,000 yards this year, but still highly productive, even though he was sharing carries. So to be so young, not have as much wear and tear in your body, that's what you're looking for in a running back, where most guys are going to be 26, 27 when they're seeing the next contract. He's going to be what, 23, 24, depending on where he gets drafted. So you have a lot more years of maybe productivity that we usually get from the running back position. Now, what I want to see from him is the pass catching reps, because as great of a runner he has been in his collegiate career up until this point, we haven't seen a lot of pass catching reps. And again, that's just the Wisconsin way. They're ground and pound. They're not, throwing the ball all over the field. So I would love to see some of those drills, with him running routes out of the backfield and things like that in terms of being a pass catcher. My second back will be Frank Gore Jr. Now, I remember his dad coming out of college. Now, I ain't that old, but I mean, I was a kid then, like a kid, but still, Frank Gore Sr. was a beast, and his son is nothing short of that. Undersized, but from what we, from a physical standpoint, what we see, but doesn't play like it. He is impactful both as a runner, obviously, but as a pass catcher as well. Um, I like to refer to him as what I like to call a bell cow, somebody you can truly run your offense through and not be one dimensional. Like I said, he can run the ball really well. He can catch the ball really well. In his collegiate career, he had 811 total touches, and that's just me counting, um, catching and rushing. So obviously, he probably I know he had some special team uses as well, so that adds to the total. One thing I really want to see is some of those pass blocking reps. We know what he can do as a receiver, but sometimes being a little bit smaller, you're still going to have to block. Like every time you're ring, you're not going to be running the route. Sometimes you're going to be told, "Hey, you need to protect the quarterback on this particular play," and you're going to have to chip a defensive end, or you're going to have to stuff a blitzing linebacker. And sometimes, shit, if the defensive tackle gets up in there, you got to put your body in there. So I want to see some of those pass blocking reps. One thing that may be somewhat concerning, he does have a tendency to fumble, does have 7 career fumbles. And I know you're saying, well, that's not really a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, if you're having 2 and 3 fumbles and things like that, that could really derail a season. And and so I would like to see him be able to showcase just some ball control and things like that. But the guy's a stud. You know, small but mighty, as they say. And I think you're getting a 10-year starter if you draft Frank Gore Jr. I think he's probably somebody that might come in as a complimentary guy, but that can easily take over that RB1 spot and hold it down for a number of years. Third running back that I'm looking at is Bucky Irvin out of Oregon. Dual threat guy. Dual threat guy. Just last season alone, had 186 carries, had 56 catches last year. So a guy that you can utilize in both areas. And he's not just, a running back that can run routes out of the backfield. Like, nah, they were lining him up in the slot and things like that. He was running legit wide receiver routes. That's what the film was showing me. The film also shows, despite being 5'10", 195 pounds, which isn't super big, but still a good size for a running back, he's a powerful runner, and very elusive in the open field. Not a burner by any stretch of the imagination, but he can make some moves, make you miss, and get to the end zone. I know, just reading some scouting reports about him as well. Some folks were saying like, hey, like he doesn't have that breakaway speed. He can get caught from behind a lot and things like that. And so for me, I want to see that 40 time, because sometimes it may look like that, but the guys that we thought were slow in college, they come to the NFL and they're speed demons. So I want to see what that 40 time looks like and see what his speed is. Like I said, uh, home run speed isn't something that you associate with with Bucky, but I want to see See what he looks like, kind of running that 40-yard dash. And also want to see some pass blocking. Again, kind of a smaller frame. We saw on film that impacted in certain situations where you had to block, and he, got out physical. And so he's going to have to show that he can do that because guess what? To play running back in this league, pass blocking is paramount. There are some people that aren't as productive running the ball or catching the ball, but they will see significant playing time just because they can block. So if you want to see the field early and often, make sure you know how to block and pass block as a running back. Um, Another guy I'm looking at is Ray Davis. Finished his career at the University of Kentucky, had 1,000-yard seasons at I think 3 different universities. Now an incredible rusher, but um, not as elite of a route runner per se out of the backfield, but he's kind of above average. He's serviceable. You can throw the ball to him. He'll get you he'll get you 3 or 4 yards, something like that. Keep things moving, keep a drive moving. But I want to see him showcase that ability. Again, that's where the game is headed now. He has to be more than just a running back. You got to be able to make an impact in multiple phases of the running game. Um, but I will say he will if you're looking for a guy that can be a ground and pound guy back, especially if you have maybe some of that, you already have a scat back or two on your roster, and you need just kind of that big body that can get things going, and you can really take over a game with. Ray Davis is your guy, and love his footwork. Want to see more of it at the combine. But I would say, and I would say this with most of the running backs, I need to see that pass catching ability, just see how it translates because we don't always see that at the college level because all running backs aren't asked to do that or asked to do it as much, especially if you're coming with an offense that has a lot of really good pass catching talent at the wide receiver and tight end position, which leads me to my next running back, Dylan Johnson, out of Washington, formerly out of Mississippi State. Had 1,100 yards and 14 touchdowns a season ago, helping Washington get to a national championship. And honestly speaking, I think they win the national championship if they involve him more. It's kind of like they just forgot about him. But anyways, really good, impactful short yardage back. I mean, he can make some big plays and everything like that, but sometimes we just don't make running backs like we used to. And so sometimes it's like, can we get that guy? And I'll take Dylan Johnson is that guy where 3rd and 1, everybody knows you're going to run the ball, you can still hand it off to him. He ain't got to do any of the cute shit. He'll get you at minimum that 1 yard. Now, what I would like to see again, like I said with all the running backs, is the pass catching. And now Dylan is a little bit different because his first 3 years he had 149 receptions combined. Now, granted, a lot of that you're playing for Mike Leach in the true air raid. We're not trying to run the ball, right? Even though his last season at Mississippi State, he ran over 1,000 yards. But at the same time, he only had 24 receptions at Washington. Now, again, Washington had premier wide receivers, guys that honestly, if McMillan wasn't hurt, we're talking about the top 3 receivers getting taken in the first and second round. So your first 2 rounds, I think all 3 of those guys are off the board. But yeah, the fact that he had that many receptions in his first 3 years lets me know that he can catch the ball. And so really interested to see what he does at the next level. And if we see more of that pass catching ability that may have been suppressed um, at the University of Washington last year. Now going on to wide receivers. Most of these names will be familiar. Um, Starting with Rome Odunze. So clearly, guys, I love the University of Washington, apparently, because these guys are making the list left and right. But Rome Odunze, um, one thing that stands out with wide receivers for me is can you play well with others? And he's a guy that can play well with others. He can dominate and still be impactful. While also, if you have a distributor the way Washington had a distributor at the quarterback position, it's okay if other guys get the ball. He's not going to kind of fizzle and strengthen the moment, and you kind of disappear for stretches at a time. No, he will continue to fight and make plays. Now, he's not what you would call an elite route runner, but I believe he uses his size and just his overall movement really well, just in terms of getting himself open. Again, obviously he can expand the route tree a little bit, but for a guy that is not as elite of a route runner as, let's say, a Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors, he can still help a quarterback out. Not a speedster, not top end speed, but we don't always need that. I think there's this notion that the quarterback has to throw really far and wide receivers have to have all this speed. Guys aren't even throwing 10 yards an attempt. So they're just trying to get the ball to their athletes. Like everything doesn't have to be a 30 or 40-yard play. And so Rome is a perfect example of just a hard work at the wide receiver position. He's going to find a way to get open. It may not always look pretty, but you can trust him as a quarterback. Going to my next guy, and kind of similar to his quarterback at LSU, Malik Neighbors. A guy that's not going to be taking part in any drills or anything like that, but is going to be getting interviewed. So I do want to know who's going to be interviewing. Like, are the Saints a team? Are the Giants, where he's projected to go, a team? Are the Arizona Cardinals looking at him? He could be the first wide receiver taken off the board. Hell, we're talking about Washington Commanders. Everybody's assuming they'll take a quarterback. They may look at the wide receiver position to pair somebody with Terry McLaurin. So, there's a lot of places Malik can go. And one thing about Malik I really love is just how he utilizes his leverage, and you never know the routes he's going to run. And it's like, oh, damn, I had no idea he was going to run this route. He knows how to set the defender up inside, outside. Um, and he can get you top end speed, but he's also a guy that doesn't just rely on speed. Like if we got to run a hitch, I'll run a hitch. If I got to run an out, I'll run an out. If I got to run a slant, I'll run a slant. So he just has it all. And one thing I will tell you or say, just play devil's advocate. And when you have some of these elite wide receivers and some of these elite offensive systems, sometimes you ask yourself, is it the wide receiver or is it the scheme getting them open? And so we won't really know until Malik, suits up in an NFL game and things like that and plays maybe his first 3 years, and we'll see, okay, was it system or was it really him? But I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was him. Yes, the system was great. It's probably going to produce 2 first-round wide receivers in Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors, but it's some good things that Malik just shows on film. And I think if a team would be lucky to have him and pair him with some guys already on their roster. Another guy I'm looking at is Malachi Corley, also a Western Kentucky University product. Now, he's very Deebo Samuel-like. So I'm calling him Deebo Samuel 2.0. I know a few people, there are my Twitter friends, like they kind of put me on to him saying, hey, man, when you look at Malik Corley, he's a guy that's kind of like Deebo, can really, like when he has the ball in his hands, he's dangerous, physical, kind of a running back at the wide receiver position. And, that could be a disservice at times. I definitely think it's a disservice to Deebo, who I call a running back. And you kind of want to see Malachi maybe expand that route tree a little bit more so that he can actually have a successful career in the NFL and not have to be relegated to have to be a running back to be successful like some people in San Francisco. So I do think Malachi has the upside to be able to do that and ability to create space. And so I want to be able to see some of those things in the combine. And I'm just excited to see where he goes because I do think he'll be somebody that'll be a playmaker right away. Another guy, Ladd McConkey, out of UGA. Big thing I need to see from him is his physicals and his health. Was really nicked up this past year, so want to make sure he's good. He was dominating the Senior Bowl, like destroying defensive backs, and so want to see if he's still in that trajectory because he was a guy that has a great ability to create space. I think he's a guy that can be a young quarterback's best friend. When you have a young quarterback, you want to make the game simple for him. You want him to get the ball out of his hands quickly, and having a guy like Ladd that can boom make that move and get open and create that separation. He's a guy that'll really help if he ends up getting drafted to a team with a young quarterback. I think he'd be really good. Now, I do want to see his 40 time and his vertical. I know he has the top end speed, but just kind of really want to see where it is in comparison to some of the wide receivers. And one thing you didn't really see with Ladd a lot was some of these contested catches, and high pointing the ball. Now, granted, because he's so skilled at route running and creating that separation, he didn't always need to utilize it. But there were times, and I won't really hold this year against him because I knew he wasn't playing he was playing without his fastball because of the injuries and things like that. But even in seasons past, when a corner was able to kind of get their hands on him, it took him out of his game a little bit, and he wasn't able to make those contested catches that you like to see all of your wide receivers be able to make, even if they're not your big guys. So really want to see kind of that vertical, really see how high he can get. Because then if he gets high, I'm like, wow, I'm too high pointing the ball. You need to translate that to the NFL. So, and last but not least, Keon Coleman, a guy that has been getting a lot of buzz. Some are saying shit, he's a top 10 to 15 pick. Some are saying shit, don't touch him until round 3. And so a guy that has a big kind of variation or variance of when do I pick him? How does he contribute? Now for me, what I watched on film, I see a playmaker. I see a guy that he's gonna get the job done. You have to you have to be watching out for him on the football field. That's what I see when I look at Keon Coleman. Um, Now what people have pointed out to me, and I try to look for it on film, and I've seen it, right? Not the best as far as route running and things like that. And I think he's a precise route runner, but he doesn't have that kind of top end speed or not super great at contested catches. We saw him like get the ball wasn't always perfect. He probably struggled catching the ball, quite different than his counterpart Johnny Wilson, who could catch all the tough shit but couldn't catch the easy stuff. So those are some things that people point out about Keon, and don't think it'll translate well to the next level. Um, I personally would like to see a little bit more body control when he does high point the ball. I know he had some good reps there, but I just like to see that more at the next level. And with him, because speed is such the big issue, I would love to see his 40 time. Um, I think sometimes sometimes a guy just knows he's better than everybody. Why do I have to run fast? I mean, he made every play. He's the best wide receiver. He's the best offensive player from a skill player standpoint. Sometimes it's like, why do I have to do all these things to show you what? I'm getting open. I'm making the plays, scoring touchdowns. Like I'm moving the chains. So those are just certain things that tape doesn't tell you everything. And so I'm looking to see how he does against his peers at the combine. Two positions left. Now I hope y'all starting to see. Just kind of take a break. I hope y'all starting to see why I'm splitting this shit into episodes, because if I still got two position groups left, and I haven't even started on defense. So that's why you are getting a two-parter. Tight end position. Really good crop of tight ends, really deep this year. And so it was kind of hard to pick five, but I like the five that I picked. And I want to start with Eric All out of Iowa, formerly out of the University of Michigan, a guy that can just simply do it all. He can play fullback, he can play tight end. And so depending on how you want to use him, you can. A tremendous blocker. He went from two teams that notoriously run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. So if you're going to play for them, you better know how to fucking block. And he has showed that he can do that. Now pass catching, I would like to see more. Now, granted, again, I think that was a bit of the offenses he played in where he wasn't able to utilize his skill set as much. But a guy that can really attack the seam, and just be that big body, that big target that a quarterback wants to throw the ball to when he's kind of going down the middle. But like I said, not extremely utilized or as utilized as much as we would like to see on film as a pass catcher. But I do believe he can get open. And he could be kind of like that guy. Like I said, it could be the office he played in, but he does show the ability to be able to get open. So maybe going to a more pro style type of offense now where we are trying to get the tight ends involved. He could really do some damage. And again, as a run blocker, he's really one of the best. And so, like I said, his name's Eric Hall, and God knew what he was doing with that last name because this is a guy that can indeed do it all. Second guy on my list out of Florida State, Jaheim Bell, also formerly out of the University of South Carolina. Now, he is very undersized for the tight end position. I can honestly see him maybe being a wide receiver at the next level. Like, I don't know if they're going to line him up at the traditional tight end position. So I'm interested to see that. Now, while he does have great speed, he's not a yak guy. So, he's not going to take a 5 yard out and get you 15. Like, he might get you 7. But if he ran the out and up, and he'll beat the linebacker and then go 70 for a touchdown because the linebacker's 6 yards behind him. So he has that level of speed and that ability to get upfield. Due to his size, he's not the best run blocker and he's not that good of a contested or a traffic catcher. So it's going to be hard, especially if you're trying to line him up at tight end. A little bit light in the ass, so we'll see. But like I said, run blocking is going to have to get better. Want to see him do well in these drills and showcase his ability to have that strength and that power. And just being a contested ball catcher, just want to see how he does there. 'Cause I think he's one of the best athletes in this draft, and if put in the right situation, he can really do some damage. So we'll see. Cade Stover out of Ohio State, the Ohio State. My apologies. A playmaker at the tight end position. That's the way I describe him. But um, I did feel that at times he could get lost. Like he was a guy that like you really, really, really need to make a play. And I know Marvin is getting double teamed. I'll throw it to Cade. But I always felt like Cade should have been a bigger part of what they did, especially this year, not having the best quarterback play. Utilize all your talents and not rely as much as they did on Marvin Harrison Jr. So would have loved to see Cade used a little bit more. Definitely a red zone threat at his size. I'm at 6'4", not a super athletic guy in terms of route running, but um, so I would like to see a little bit more, like at the combine, some of that lateral and agility movement. Want to see a little bit more of that, and want to be able to see some of his routes in that short route. Like he was a guy that could, get you over the seam. A guy that, hey, I'll box out the defender and throw it up to me right in the end zone. But I want to see, hey, can you get that quick out, that leverage point on that linebacker so we can get that ball to you? Those are some of the things I want to see out of K. Another guy, Brevin Spanford out of the University of Minnesota, big boy, 6'7", 270 pounds. He is what I would say fits the mold of what you want out of a tight end. The height, the weight. Now he did have a little bit of a drop off this past season from his previous year, but I'm not too concerned. I think it was a lot of the quarterback situation, in my opinion, that really led to that. And so, much like Kate, a huge red zone threat, not uber athletic, not the greatest at generating separation, but I think he can showcase some of his agility. And sometimes when you're a big body, you're a big body. Okay, sometimes you're just big and you just run and your quarterback finds you. And Brevin can be a guy like that. And so I'm hoping to see him healthier and be able to make a difference. And that starts at the NFL Combine. Maybe, turning some heads at what he's able to do from an athletic standpoint. Because again, right now, that's the knock on him. Maybe he can show us some things that we didn't know about his game that the film doesn't always show. So really excited there. And last but not least, especially because this guy is tight end one in the draft for me, it's Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State. A little undersized, but he plays big. Um, at almost 700 yards receiving. If you know anything about Kansas State, they run the ball. So as a tight end, to have almost 700 yards receiving, if they actually pass the ball a lot, and if Walker Howard or Will Howard, I'm sorry, was good, was a little bit better, you could see this guy probably having 1,000-yard season at the tight end position. So he covers ground really, really, really well in terms of it doesn't take him a long time to get upfield and get to where he needs to be. Um, Obviously, the short routes are things you want to see more. But even a guy of his size, I know he's undersized, a little undersized, but even at 6'4", you want to see him be able to utilize that size against the linebackers and the safeties just a little more. But for me, he's the best at his position. Well, I lied. Brock Bowers is the best at his position, but I mean, I don't even want to call him a tight end. He's something. He's an alien. That's like trying to call Victor Wembanyama. Sorry, mixing sports. Just trying to call him a center. That just doesn't exist. Brock Bowers, whatever position he is, doesn't exist yet. Because I haven't seen a tight end take jet sweep 65 yards. So pick a new position for him. So in traditional sense of tight ends, Benson Knott is my tight end one of. I'll at least say tight end 1A to Brock Bowers. Because Brock Bowers, if we're going to say, okay, well, he's a tight end, well, shit. He's a damn football player, but okay. Brock Bowers is tight end one, and then there's Benson Knott, and then there's everybody else. But I think whoever gets him, they are getting a stud, man. Like they're getting and why does his name escape me? Tight end from Detroit, rookie. This past season was his rookie year. He was killing it. I think you get that if you draft Benson Knott, and I hope the Saints are looking at this young man now. Oh my God. The last position group for the day on offense, we are looking at offensive line. And I will tell you, there was a mix of offensive tackle and a mix of offensive guard. And so to start it off, I will go with one of the top offensive guards in this draft class, and that is Cooper Beebe out of Kansas State, offensive guard. Now, he's a big bull. I mean, we're offensive linemen usually aren't. And I like him because he can dominate both in the pass and the run game. Sometimes you get guys they're really good at one thing and not as good in the other. But I think he has elite traits in both. Now, one thing, and just if you're a Saints fan, one thing we love in our offensive linemen, much like I talked about our defensive backs and having versatility. In this day and age, your offensive linemen have to have versatility. And there's not too many prospects as versatile as Cooper. 13 starts at left tackle, and he had 28 starts at left guard and 7 starts at right tackle. So that's 48, 48 total starts in college football, which is incredible. 13 at left tackle, so effectively a season. 7 at right tackle, effectively half a season. And 28, so effectively 2 seasons at left guard, which is where we would really want him, or I would really want him. And keep in mind, this guy was a back-to-back offensive lineman of the year in the Big 12. The Big 12 that puts out some phenomenal offensive linemen, especially from the University of Oklahoma. So for this guy to be with knowing what the University of Oklahoma puts out every year, and for this guy to be back-to-back top offensive lineman in that league, oh man, that's going to stand out to me. It's going to stand out to me. And if there's some way uh, a team that's in need of some offensive line help, this guy is a day one starter. I think a Pro Bowler year one, a future Hall of Famer. I am that high on Cooper. So really excited to see where he lands. Second on my list is Karan Emagaji. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Um, would love to, if somebody needs to correct me, but would love to hear the official pronunciation. But offensive tackle out of Yale. Now, another guy we talk about, versatility. Started his collegiate career as a freshman at right guard. Transitioned to left tackle as a sophomore. Guess what? That sophomore year, which happened to be 2022, 666 snaps. I wish he would have got another snap. With 0 sacks allowed. Zero. 0 sacks allowed. Now, injury riddled last year. So that's, for some people, that's going to be some trauma because injury riddled offensive lineman that didn't play a bunch of good competition, which I know that's a knock on him. The being in the Ivy League, what was the level of competition and things like that. But I think sometimes we have those natural gifts that he has. His arm length is perfect. for his position, extremely athletic, and so and has very quick feet. So when you're talking about a guy who has to have long arms and his feet kind of can keep up with that, and he can get out on those pass rushers and those edge rushers and keep them at bay and things like that. And then on the double team and be able to get a hand there, it's good to have kind of that arm length and be able to diagnose blitzes and being able to pick that up and just having the feet and that the kind of hip flexibility to be able to kind of seal guys off and kind of create lanes for whether it be your running back or your quarterback to step up in the pocket and make a big play. He has those physical gifts. I will say hand usage, just watching him a little bit, hand usage can be a bit of a concern. I think sometimes, and we're seeing this a lot, where guys are always trying to put their hands out because they just want to, you know, get ahead of the edge rusher. And the edge rusher can just manipulate those hands, knock them down, get around the guys, things like that. So always feel the need to show your hands a little too early. I think he has a tendency to do that. And again, like I mentioned, level of competition is a concern, but not for me. That's just kind of some things I've read about. But I think if you can play, you can play. And sometimes when you have those natural gifts, uh, we got to be willing. We got to bring coaching back. Guys don't want to coach anymore. They got to be willing to coach. And I think he's a guy that if you're willing to coach him, he could be really good. Another guy I'm looking at is Keaton Bills. There is a tweet out there in the stratosphere or in the Twitter sphere or the X sphere or whatever the hell it's called now, where this guy popped on my TV screen in I think it was the 2022, 2023 Rose Bowl. And this guy is making play after play after play. Like, you know how dominant you have to be as an offensive lineman for me to like, not just for me, I think just anybody to look at you and be like, damn, this kid is awesome. And he was just destroying the opposing team's interior defensive line. And Utah is known for running the ball. And so I guess that's why he was popping on my screen so much. But the guy was amazing. And so there's a tweet out there where I said, "Congratulations, Keaton Bills. Your bills will be paid by the New Orleans Saints." And he actually retweeted that, by the way. In case you don't believe me, he did retweet that. So a guy I've been watching for the past couple of years. Wish he would have been eligible this last year when he could have come, or I hoped he would have come out, but he decided to go back to college. But 3 years starting at guard. So we talked about guys that have versatility, have played in a lot of different places, but also consistency is really good as well when you've started a number of years at that one position, and so that kind of leads to being dominant. Like I said, I love the big body, love his body control, just being able to get from point A to point B, especially when pulling and just mauling people and getting to that next level and helping spring big runs. Hand technique can always improve. And like I said, I think that's just a thing that's going on with younger offensive linemen. But he's not uber athletic, what you think, in terms of uber athleticism. But again, what that complex run scheme that Utah utilizes, he has something, and to be as dominant as they were in that, I really like that. Another guy, Amarius Mims, University of Georgia, offensive tackle. What am I looking for? Physical, physical, physical. The guy had tightrope surgery during the season, re-aggravated it in the SEC championship game. Just got cleared not too long ago. Will be taking part in drills. I want those physicals to come back positive or negative. I'm not a medical person. That's the wife. Anyways, I wanted to be good. Shit, y'all know what I mean. Um, the kid is extremely athletic. It pops out on your screen. Um, love his lateral movement. He can get side to side really quick, and from a big guy, he can get skinny and cut off some of those lanes, especially if you try to beat him inside. Now, unfortunately, doesn't have a lot of snaps. Didn't play a whole bunch, played limited in 2022. Was supposed to be like the guy in that last season and was looking to be the guy last season. And then injuries happened, unfortunately. So, really, he's a guy that's going to need some reps. If you're going to be ready, right away, or like you have to have a level of patience, I would say, because he hasn't played a lot of football. Let him get his bearings under him. Don't be trying to judge him year one. That's not how this shit works. Give the kid some time. Now, one thing that can't happen because he's so big and athletic is he can, when he has you, he'll stop. And we know in the NFL, these edge rushers are relentless. They will keep moving. You cannot stop, especially in this day and age where we're talking about quarterbacks extending plays. If you stop and then that defender sees the quarterback moving, he tries to go, guess what? Holding 15 yards, gotta go back, or 10 yards, gotta go back. So keep those feet moving, keep driving, keep driving. So that's something that we want to see out of Marius Mims. But more importantly, coming out of this, I know the drills, if he's healthy, are going to look good. I want to make sure that ankle's good. I want him to be good because he's a good kid, and I think he'll have a great career if his body allows it to happen. And last but not least, another offensive tackle, Patrick Paul out of the University of Houston. He's a guy that I would say can defend any rush, bull rush, speed rush. Um, he has that size and athleticism. Just be ready for it all. Um, I wrote that down. Let me see. Kind of similar to what I mentioned with Marius. If you stop moving, you can be prone to holding. I think Patrick just kind of on film. Sometimes he got out of position a little too often, and that made him prone to holding. And just got to kind of utilize your size a little bit more. Um, Now, if he doesn't utilize his athleticism to be in the right spot at the right time, he just might be prone to some penalties. But a guy that, did really well at the University of Houston, like I said, would love to take a flyer on him, you know, late first round, early second, something like that. And he could be a real improvement to a team. Again, like most people, just want to see the drills and how he's doing in terms of agility and movement and things like that. But really excited for this offensive line class. Really, really deep. Um, you know, I don't think we're talking as much about this class. Like, you know, coming into the college season, it was like, oh, this is a two quarterback class. We'll figure out everybody else there. Like you knew Caleb and Drake were QB1 and QB2. And then you kind of started saying, okay, the rest is going to be filled by the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. And then, as we always do, we sprinkle quarterbacks in this. But I think the trenches will hold true. And I can't wait to talk about the defensive line prospects later on this week. But really excited for these five guys that hopefully I get to see and watch and see how they, you know, make something of themselves, make themselves some money. That's what I want all these guys to do. Make yourself some money. Take advantage of the opportunity. And even the guys that aren't doing drills but doing interviews, guess what? You can lose some money in the interviews too. So don't lose money. This week, we ain't losing money. Okay, we're making money. All right. So really enjoy talking about this, man. I'm interested to see what are some of the players that y'all are looking forward to seeing at the combine and how you guys think they'll do. So always feel free to comment that underneath the episode, but also going to make sure we post it on Twitter. So also feel free to comment in the comment section there. Uh, as always, if I offended anybody, that's a good thing. It's an opportunity for me to learn. It's an opportunity for you to teach me. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Peace.